All right. Yeah, take it live then.
All right.
And I do believe we are alive.
Are we? Well, let's see. Yes.
You would
I just,
concur
I just, yep. I concur.
wholeheartedly.
I guess I do indeed concur wholeheartedly. We are live after a few technical hiccups.
Yes.
As per usual. That's kind
Too
of
much beer, as per usual.
Oh, good. Randy confirms. Roger that you're live.
Righto. Well,
okay.
We're doing a little kitchen sink after hours, informal get together at the last minute because, wow, Roe versus Wade is on its back right now. I did not see that coming. Honestly, like not too long ago in an episode, I think I was like, "Oh, this won't happen." Like they're going to see how pissed off the American people will be, and they're not going to do it. And then they did it.
Well, but then now they're probably going to see how pissed off people are going to be, and things might change. As far as I'm concerned, it was inevitable. We're delegating control of our body autonomy to a third party. Is it really reasonable to expect they're going to always uphold it and things are always going to be the same? Just look at the track record in the US or any government for that matter. They can't make up their minds. So the first chance people get to change things, well, they're going to do it. So, it's not really that much of a shock. I didn't think it was going to be now, but I don't really see it as much of a surprise, I guess.
No, and it is, at least for the time being, still going to be left to the states.
Yeah.
But that's a small consolation for people that are, not really within driving distance of a state that will allow it.
Well, and here's the thing. This is okay. This is the thing that really pisses me off, is that some states are entertaining, or maybe already have entertained, the idea of saying, well, you can't go to another state.
Right.
Like if you leave the state to get an abortion or whatever, well, now you're a criminal. And it's like, wait a minute, who the fuck are you? Wait a minute. No. The laws of a particular state. It's really clear. And that's kind of, I guess, sort of a benefit of states' rights, is like a state is a self-contained, little
petri dish
of experimentation. It's its own ecology. And so whatever's legal there, like for instance, in Washington state, you can't own any, well, with some exceptions, you can't own like full auto, like machine guns and stuff like that. But there's other states where you can. In fact, most other states you can. So I can go to Kentucky and shoot a machine gun perfectly legally. I can go to Arizona and shoot a machine gun. But this is akin to Washington state being like, hey, if you leave Washington state where it's illegal to have a machine gun and you go to Kentucky and shoot a machine gun, now you're a felon.
Yeah.
Well, that's bullshit.
Well, you know why that doesn't happen? It's because doing something like that is purely out of petty recrimination. You are basically saying, hey, there's a little loophole here. It's federally illegal. If we call them a felon, we can charge them and whoever is assisting them with a federal crime or something. Mm-hmm. They're basically only doing that just to be mean to you. They really freaking hate women.
Why? Well, it's at the end of the day, it's all about control. It really is. I'm sure we'll get into that at some point.
Yeah. And the other tie to guns I see on this is everyone's cheering that the Supreme Court did something to expand gun right laws or something. I don't know what that was all about, but
Oh, it was New York, I think. There was
Yeah, but
some.
yeah, this was like hot on the heels of that. So I'm seeing all these people cheering, yay, guns, and also cheering like, yay, babies' lives are saved, and and all the hyperbole that goes with all that shit. And I'm thinking to myself, if the 2A movement is really about defending yourself, they should be backing the right to choose an abortion, because there are plenty of situations like ectopic pregnancy or something where you're defending your life. Or what about the potential kid's life? Like, it's going to be malnourished. You're going to be on the street for, the remainder of your life. Like, it's not going to be a good life for the kid.
No, and you're right. And I don't think people really think that far beyond their myopic worldview, sadly. But no, you're right. It does tie into the world of firearms ownership and stuff like that. It's like it's similar because you have autonomy over your body, what you put into it, what you take out of it, what you do with your body, and what's inside it. Like, and that goes to speaks to the Roe versus Wade thing. And by this, on the same parallel, you have the right to defend your body from harm or someone else's body, I guess.
And that's the problem I have with 2A. It was written incorrectly. It really fucked up. And if it was written as you have the right to defend yourself, well, then you could actually argue that abortion is covered by the Constitution already. But,
yeah.
But in this case, it just says keep it right to keep and bear arms. And it's like, so you have more rights to a piece of technology that we invented than a person has to their own human body.
No, I completely agree that it's very problematic in that, the Bill of Rights is kind of like really vague at times, but it's also very specific and it's specific in certain ways that I can't really comprehend. It should have been more conceptual. Like, okay, these are the concepts. Self-ownership is preserved as a constitutional right, basically. And from that, you could pretty much get anything. Abortion would completely be totally okay. Firearms ownership would be totally okay. The right to express yourself and practice your faith or whatever. All of it would go into like one simple bucket, and it would be very hard to contest that, I guess.
Wasn't there a section of the Constitution that said like all rights not listed in this document are still owed to human beings or something?
I think it was it the 10th Amendment, I think. I don't have a Constitution.
That sounds about right, yeah.
But it was like if it's not specifically expressly laid out in the Constitution, in the Bill of Rights, then it just goes to the states essentially to decide.
Yeah. To any future country that takes over when the Empire America collapses, don't feel like you have to stick to nice round numbers like 10. That's what the Bible did. That's what the Constitution did. They're like, these 10, these will be enough. And then they have to keep adding on to it. But
well, and if you look at like the original like Articles of Confederation and stuff, like going way back in the day, what was it, the Federalist Papers and the conversations people had, there could have been a lot more entries in the Bill of Rights. And it was argued also, and I kind of agree with this sentiment, that if it's enumerated, that people might kind of get this notion that the state is granting you these rights. And that, well, if they're granting you the rights, they can take them away. And now Roe versus Wade is a little bit different in that it's legal precedent, which is really problematic. And I'm kind of honestly shocked that with something so established for my whole lifetime, my parents' lifetime almost, that it wasn't codified into law. Like it wasn't written down specifically, or there was no attempt made to say like, hey, well, you know what? Why don't we make this a part? Why don't we add this to the Bill of Rights?
I tell you what, if it was any other right that we were like, oh, this is really important, it would have already been in. Yeah. They would have been like, okay, let's shoe that in, a 2/3 majority, blah, blah, blah. It's all ratified. Good to go.
Yeah.
With this, it's like, I think for the last 45 years, there's been scheming and plotting on how to get rid of the damn thing. And they just finally pulled the trigger.
Yeah. Probably.
That's why it wasn't made into part of the Constitution, I'm pretty sure.
Well, and I guess that's kind of what happens when you have the state dictating these kinds of things. Like,
more to the point, a bunch of crusty old white men.
Well, yeah, exactly. It's a bunch of old, stinky, wrinkly people, that
not like peers.
no, and but the fact that they can like just kind of on a whim decide, oh well, hey, it's not going to be that way. But I mean, how can you live a life? I mean, this speaks to a lot of things. Vaping is a good example too. Like, oh, here it's totally okay. Here it is. I can expect how much I'm going to pay for it. I know what to expect from it. And then, now all of a sudden, well, some politician, I have no idea who the hell they are. I didn't vote for them. They decided all of a sudden, well, now things are going to be different. And now they are. And now I could be a felon if I have, a vape device or something like that. And that's kind of what's happening here. It's like nothing is permanent. And, I guess, this goes into like all kinds of different angles, but it's like, if we can't agree on common principles of humanity, like, what is a core philosophical belief that we can derive all of our rules and laws and such from, well, then, I'd say they're all invalid. Like, if we can't agree on it, then it's invalid. Like, everything's invalid. I guess. I don't know. Just
I mean, isn't that kind of how you get filibustering and stuff, though? To basically just make it so easy to like flop anything.
Well, yeah, but I mean, what's the alternative? Like, shouldn't we have consistency? Shouldn't we? I would rather have a system that's kind of like based on, I mean, it doesn't have to be based on science, but at least I would expect some scientific reflection and similarity there, that like there would be some logical consistency, that things could be proven, and it wouldn't be just like, oh, well, I got so many check boxes on ballots, therefore I can just tell you what to do. I won the popularity contest. Like, well, that's bullshit. That doesn't mean you know anything more than anybody else. I mean, this is a point where I'm saying this could change everything if people start changing the way they look at stuff, and it might call into question a lot of things. I
certainly think that if they don't backpedal on this, seeing all the outrage at it, I think it's time to start doing things that, protest, but like in a very loud way. I'm talking about like everyone just says, you know what, like, we're not paying taxes.
Yeah.
None of us.
No, No, you're okay.
Like,
yeah, I thought you were going down a different path, and no, I totally agree with you. Like protesting, as far as I'm concerned, it effectively places you in an inferior position. It's kind of like you're just complaining to your overlords, oh, woe is me, help us. Oh, I got these chants and we have our signs and we're going to stand here and we're going to ask for and plead for change and demand change. It pretty much validates their authority and the decisions they've made. I fuck that.
yeah.
I think it's better to just be indifferent, ignore it. Like, yeah, don't pay taxes. Like everybody should. That's a good way to protest. Don't participate.
Yeah, but I mean, the rationale is that like any other job, and I mean, the government is supposed to be serving the people. They're failing at that. They're failing at that. So any other job in the world except a police officer, when you do something wrong, you get suspension without pay.
Yeah.
When you're a cop, you get a paid vacation.
Well, yeah, and if you're a politician, you just get a raise.
Exactly. So it's time that they learn that there's consequences for fucking with the people.
Yeah.
I mean, like, revolution doesn't have to be all or none.
No, you're right. And I don't,
doesn't have to be bloody either, but they're going to come for their money eventually.
But I mean, if millions of people are not paying, I mean, really, there's only so many of them. I do kind of ascribe to the Gandhi-esque, like passive resistance, nonviolent resistance, and you can get really clever with that too. That is actually a lot more destructive than being physically destructive. And because I don't know, physical violence never really solves anything. Sometimes you just got to knock a fucker out, but not all the time. And this is a time where a more calculated measure is in order, I think. But this is another thing. Like, lots of people feel the same way about their own personal things. So it's like there's a whole bunch of people across the board in all walks of life who feel slighted about whatever they have to deal with. And imagine if all those people put aside their differences and were like, you know what? Swivel on it, punk. And they got together and they just they changed the world.
And that's the great thing. Like, you don't have to stop paying taxes because Roe v. Wade got overturned. If you agree with that decision, there's something else you're pissed off at the government about. Like, the one thing I think everyone in America can agree on right now is they're pissed off at the government for something. Like, everything they're doing is pissing everyone off.
Exactly. And here's the thing. I would probably argue that, 3/4 of the population of the US is pissed off at the government for one reason or another. And the government is terrified of those people getting along and banding together, and finding common ground. And that's the thing. It's like, that's why they perpetuate this facade of political divide. That's exactly how that system controls all of us. The sooner we discard that, the sooner we're going to be liberated. Like, there's a better way. This way is corrupt. I mean, it's a rotten house that's about to fall down. And
I just, the other end of this is the goddamn religion injected into all of this.
Yeah.
Like, and because it is so few controlling everything, like right down to the psychology, like the divide and conquer, all of that is kind of driven in the background by a bunch of religious, few people that we're really controlling
religious,
the masses in that psychological torture kind of way.
Sure. Yeah. Religious zealots, essentially. And yeah, that's very problematic. Man. Oh, we got comments. We should probably respond to some comments.
There's something in the air about that, though. Like something is impending. I think that's probably referring. I think Randy is referring to the revolution idea of standing up to the government.
And well, yeah, and I honestly, I don't think you really have to like stand up and fight. You could just turn your back. Just be like, you know what? Whatever. You don't mean anything. It's kind of like a labyrinth. You have no power over me. Like, okay, it's only your own faith that makes that thing able to control you.
You remind me of the babe.
What babe?
The babe with the power.
What power?
Power of voodoo.
Hoodoo.
You
do what?
Remind me of the babe.
Okay,
I saw my baby.
No. We're not going to break into song. Okay. Oh man.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Randy was saying he's referring to more of a Civil War II type situation. Well, I hope it doesn't have to get bloody. I know it will, but
it could. It might
be nice if like something like holding our tax money ransom until our grievances are redressed.
Yeah. Or just withholding it indefinitely and coming up with something new. The thing is, when you look out there across, well, you could say this country, but I see things as from a perspective of the planet, humankind. People, we have a lot in common. Like the grievances that people have are very similar. We're all human. Like we have the same hopes and dreams and the same sorts of, we all bleed red, essentially, and deal with a lot of the same stuff. I think there's so much common ground that people could find and work together and coordinate and build a better world. Really, like that was kind of the hope of constructing this U.S. government. Like, oh, we're gonna make something better, and for the time it was, but it's definitely been corrupted, and it is a shadow of what it used to be. And it was even assumed that, well, that particular system wouldn't last long. It would easily be usurped by superior ideas, and people would just dismantle things and build something new as they have new ideas. And this little petri dish experiment that we're doing bears fruit. Like we'd be like, hey, well, that works, that doesn't work. And then we'd just be like, okay, well, let's start over again. Well, this thing has been embedded for well over 200 years and is grown much more complex and dug in than I think anybody could ever have imagined.
That's 200 years, roughly. We've been a country. 50 of those years, we had Roe versus Wade. For a quarter of the time, almost, like, no, what 50 would be. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I get too much beer. I can't do math. That sounds right, though. 50
yeah,
years.
So you divide 50 into 100 is half. Yeah. So that's a quarter, roughly.
Yeah. Right. I mean, that's not insignificant. And God, it's staggering how much time that is in comparison to when we basically like broke free of England.
Yeah.
With all these like fresh ideas and bright-eyed futures and look what it turned into. Like, I don't want to hate the country, but Jesus Christ,
but there's good things. But there were good things about the Soviet Union. I just recently posted on Facebook.
There were good things about abusive ex-girlfriends.
Well, that's true.
Like,
but I posted a link to a video on Facebook, the Soviet Wave, our dream video, and yeah, like in the beginning, it was very hopeful. They thought, hey, we're going to go to space and it's going to be all awesome and stuff. And well, then pretty soon people are starving and trading on the black market just so they could buy like a radio or something. We got Randy coming in too now.
Yeah.
All right.
He had a few comments going there, so I thought it would be less latency if we invited him on. Hey, Randy, how you doing?
Oh, it's Friday. My hair's a mess.
Yeah, well, so is mine. Well, Casey, your hair is fine now.
Yeah, my hair is always perfect.
Love the goat.
If this were a video that I could edit, I'd put a little like bing, like a little sparkle there.
Now I was just commenting on the chat there. It's like with the way the conversation was going, it's like it's time to hit the reset button. I think it's time to have everything reevaluated from ground up and start over.
Yeah,
and whether Putin nukes us or however that works out. I mean, but the way the establishment is set up currently, that's never going to happen because they got so much money.
Yeah,
in those pockets what's going on.
They're targeting a U.S. embassy now because we're kind of giving some aid to Ukraine, and this is the time they choose to create civil unrest in this country. Like, so now we're going to be like skirting a war on both sides of our border.
No, don't forget about monkeypox.
I was gonna say, like, okay, so when are the zombies? Is it going to be zombies first or the aliens?
Vulcans,
yeah. I would hope the aliens are Vulcans, and not like Independence
I would hope so
Day
too.
Style. Yeah. Oh man.
At this time, I do want to say to the remainder of our viewers, you're welcome to come on if you'd like. We do need some uteruses. Yeah, people who have uteruses. Opinions, yes. Women.
Oh, wait, we got a comment from Laura. Don't forget about the murder hornets.
Oh yeah, they kind of disappeared after COVID, didn't they?
No, they're still there. They just disappeared from the news.
Right.
Yeah. They're like in Bellingham or something.
Yeah. Yep. They're coming. It'll happen.
I mean, if we as guys have a choice to go out and decide, hey, I want a vasectomy, or hey, I want to have elective surgery, why can't women decide to do the same damn thing with their own bodies? And why does some old gray-haired Republican bearded dumbass from Texas have to sit around and say, oh no, because you can't do that because the Bible says you can't, even though it's not in the Bible?
Yeah,
that is true.
Well, when they say you can find the answer to everything in the Bible, they mean it, they believe it, and they make it happen. Like, they will twist any verse they can think of to make it fit exactly how they feel.
You ever listen to Aaron Ra on YouTube at all? He's got a really awesome atheist channel on there. But
I've checked him out.
But go ahead.
I think it's harmful to the conversation to deviate towards like politics or religion or anything. We should be talking about people, because as far as I'm concerned, this issue is apolitical and it's not really religious. It has to do with humanity. Like, our place in the universe, like our autonomy over ourselves. And I think that's an argument you can make to anybody who, whatever their philosophical beliefs or whatever, like if they're political or religious or whatever, like it's a very simple argument to make to people, to anybody. But if you divide it down into like politics or religion, well, then it becomes like an us versus them, and it gets people going because people feel established in their beliefs. So if you talk in that kind, if you frame things in a way that's like an us versus them, then well, you're automatically going to create an adversary. We should be creating allies, right?
You're right.
Yeah. So like, because this is bigger than any of those things. I don't know. Sorry, I might have had too much beer. We'll see.
No, that's okay. I mean, I've been thinking about this all day since I woke up this morning, and I heard the news, and I felt like I woke up in 1822, and it's like there's so many different aspects to go, different avenues, I should say, to go down, and you could easily go down any of those. But yeah, you're right. It's about the individual, not about if you're Muslim or if you're a Hindu or if you're a Christian or if you're
an atheist,
or some bearded guy from Texas.
Yeah, or if you're like a Republican or a Democrat or a socialist or an anarchist, like,
or a communist.
Yeah, exactly. Like everybody can find common ground in things, and really to make a big difference, to make a change in the world, that should be the goal, finding the common ground. The more we argue and bicker over stuff amongst each other, well, then the easier it is for those people in the ivory tower in DC and stuff to kind of dictate what we do. I say, fuck you all.
Yeah, but on the other side, it's like, why don't we have these conversations anymore? It's always so polarized on either, this side or that side. And there's always that one guy, Manchin, who holds everybody by the balls and then makes a crappy decision. But anyways, sorry, not to get down to politics, but I mean, it always goes that way. It's, when George Washington finished his presidency, I recall in history class when I was in college, he gave in his retirement speech advice to not go down the path of political parties and to basically, stick with your own virtues and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
If I'm wrong, forgive me, but that's what I remember reading and hearing in those lectures. And so
whoever said it, they were correct.
Yeah, right. Exactly. I mean, that's a good point.
Yeah, because that's the thing. Like, yeah, the divide is not helping. Like earlier when I mentioned, hey, we need the opinion of a woman on here. If any are willing to come on short notice, it's because we've gotten flack before for talking about abortion without a woman present, but it's like we're also allies here. Like we're not none of us are on the side of the fence that thinks this was a good idea. So
yeah,
and,
and I think it's problematic, but we can conceptualize and still imagine things without being necessarily that thing.
We do have a comment from a female perspective here. I have utilized the opportunity Roe versus Wade was made for about 22 years ago. I don't regret it for a second. And that's great. Like, but you don't have to not regret it. Like, there are women that, will question themselves for the rest of their life. And if that's how they process that, that's valid. That's fine too.
But
Yeah.
as individuals, we make decisions all the time, and sometimes we think about 20 years later that we regret or don't regret. Like that one time when I was in high school and I did X, Y, and Z. It's like, should I have done that or should I have done something else? Or it's just life choices as an individual.
Yeah, there's no law.
Exactly.
There's no natural law that says every choice you make has to leave you feeling exactly one way or the other. There's ambivalence in there.
Yeah.
Well, true. And the only time where you should feel bad about making a decision that you regret is if you came into it with all the knowledge. If you were omnipotent and omniscient, then sure. Well, you knew that was a bad decision, but none of us knows. Like, we don't know anything. We're barely taught the basic skills we need to barely survive on this planet, let alone deal with complex situations and stuff. So I can't fault anybody for making a decision that maybe they regret or they feel like gray about. Like, yeah, well, sure, we're all in the same boat. Like, I always say I'm an idiot. Like, I don't know shit.
Yeah, I mean, if we're going to talk about people, the perspective of people regarding abortion and stuff, that's one thing you really got to examine is regret.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you might want to get the abortion. You might know that it's the best choice for XYZ reason. It's still going to tug at you in some way, Yeah, it might make you sad. It might make you preoccupied, whatever it does. You can be super sure about something and still regret it. If you know what I mean. Like,
yeah, well, exactly. And maybe it's the unknown that might be a component of that, like the what ifs. Like, well, what would it have been like if I made a different decision? Well, you'll never know because you made this decision. And that's okay. Yeah. Like, it's okay to do that. And we all the time deal with difficult decisions. Like, but for the state to come in and say, well, you can't make that difficult decision because reasons. Well, that's bullshit. Yeah. Like, especially with their track record. Like, when have you assholes ever done anything right? When have you ever fixed a thing? Show me one example. And then I might entertain your ideas. But until then, fuck off.
Yeah.
Sign me up.
But while our opinions are, in favor of women having choices, the people that made this judgment, that Randy, you were talking to me about this earlier, a bunch of them were like convicted, or well, not convicted, but like, plausibly accused of,
yeah,
sexual predation and harassment and,
right, yeah, two of the justices, what's his name, the beer guy and
Kavanaugh,
the black guy from the 90s, that guy. They had a whole trial on CNN for like the whole week about sexual harassing. What's her name? Anita?
Samuel L. Jackson, like the snakes on a plane guy, right? Oh, no, different guy. Okay. Different black
Clarence
guy from
Thomas.
The 90s. Oh, okay.
Clarence Thomas.
Oh, I was hoping you'd say like, Blade or something.
I'm weird about the way I pronounce or I present information and things and data and whatnot, because I'm a little blunt sometimes. But yeah, so so Kavanaugh and Thomas have both been accused of sexual harassment. So they are technically possible sexual predators on the bench, and they still got approved and voted in and are sitting on that same bench today. And
okay, accusations, I would say, don't necessarily discount somebody from being able to perform a job, and that might be dangerous territory to go down. But
yeah,
here's the problem I have with like current events. What was going on? They were talking about the judges, and how they had political leanings, and they're like, oh well, there's the conservative judges and the liberal judges, and I'm like, partisan judges?
Yeah.
The fuck? What are you kidding me? Like, aren't judges like, this is like the highest order. Like, you should be impartial, that you should not be political. I mean, you can internally be political, but when you're sitting there judging a case, politics should play no part in that. And if it does, well, we're fucked.
That's
might as well pack it in. We're done.
Exactly. Yeah,
that's it. Let's go home. Because if the judges can be political, then
partisan judges, appointed judges, and judges that sit there for a lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
Like, from the point that they're appointed, like, they haven't proven themselves yet in that position.
And like, this goes back to the whole scientific method thing. Like, shouldn't there be some evaluation,
right,
where you're
probation
constantly
period
evaluated, and if you're not performing correctly, you could be tossed out or replaced? Like,
let's implement.
Why do we not
now.
have a system? Yeah, why do we not have a system like that? I don't get it.
Happens at my job. I mean, why not for government?
Yeah.
Again, their job is to serve us. It's time for us to start issuing some reprimands.
Well, I mean, that is a good point, that they are supposed to serve us. Government was originally conceptualized as a, helping everybody kind of system. And well, as a member of the everybody, I don't feel helped at all. Like, I don't feel like they're doing anything. They don't have an interest in fixing stuff or improving my life or anybody else's lives. Like, so what the hell are they doing? Why are we still participating?
Have you ever lived in a different country?
I haven't lived, but I've been there.
So I lived in Japan for a little bit of time. And so living over there and working, actually, the only thing that I had to really pay out in my paycheck was a little bit of tax and $30 a month into the national healthcare system, where I could see any doctor I wanted to and get any kind of treatment I needed, except for cosmetic stuff. Like, I couldn't get new tits, but that was a different story. But living over there, the government is very distant from the people. You don't have it blaring in your face every day. You don't see Ted Cruz on the TV every 5 minutes, making some kind of speech about guns or the Bible or whatever else. You don't really hear it. It's just like you do your stuff and you go on with your day, and you take your train trip and you go to work, and you might work a lot and your pay might kind of suck sometimes, but it's a job and it's money, and plus you're taken care of at the end of that. And here it's like just noise everywhere. It's like, politics here, government, the religion here, all this stuff's coming down. Like, this is bad, this is good. Oh, we're taking away vaping. Oh, we're going to go do this. Oh, we're going to do that thing. Oh, you can't go to this place because of whatever freaking rule they made up. It's very different. I would say calming at times, because you just don't get that noise, and you can
and that may be the exception, but it should be more common. But it sounds like politics wasn't really like a dinner table sort of thing over there. Like people didn't really, it wasn't on the news. It's kind of,
It wasn't on the news. It wasn't discussed. It wasn't anywhere. Even talking about the emperor is kind of like, like taboo. So they don't talk about that stuff. And then even
Mhm.
voting in Japan, I had a conversation with my mother-in-law. She's Japanese. And I asked her one day, I said, do you vote? No. Like, why not? Oh, I just don't. And she has no interest whatsoever. And her thought behind it is, well, the people who want to govern will govern, and the rest of us who don't care about it will just not care about it.
Yeah, and maybe that speaks to the fact that Japan culturally is very ancient. Obviously it has a very storied history with a lot of changes and flux, but it's been around for a long time. And so I feel like changes happen very slowly there, although not technologically. The Japanese are very inclined to embrace technological advancements and things like that. And here in the US, we're kind of like the opposite of that. Like we're almost like Luddites,
That's a pretty wise outlook.
In 2002, I bought a Japanese cell phone visiting Japan that was about 10 years ahead of anything that we had over here in the States.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
But your mother-in-law, she has a wise outlook, because whenever I hear of like mandatory voting and stuff, I want to back away in horror, because when I start thinking about all the people casting their vote with no informed opinion, diluting the pool with nonsense, which isn't just like aimless nonsense, like they're picking a name and swaying.
No, you're totally right, because Casey, because
you keep checking the Patty Murray box because you've heard her name on the news.
Well, exactly. No,
one of the
not only that,
actually reads the voter pamphlet.
The thing is, the problem with mandatory voting is if you don't know anything, you might just randomly pick something.
Yep.
Yeah.
You're ill-informed and you're like, I have to, so I'm just gonna fuck it. I'm just gonna like check some boxes. Like you're just checking boxes to check them.
Like, I see a political cartoon now where it's like mandatory voting ballot, and it's like 4 check boxes on how you would like to die. Like, please stab me. Please shoot me in the head, please.
So that actually, there is a meme based around that very concept, and it's a cow standing in front of 2 doorways, and one doorway says left, one says right, and you can see as the viewer of the cartoon that both doorways converge and lead to the slaughterhouse. Like, so you could choose whatever you want, but you're in the end, you're dead. And not only that, but mandatory voting, it assumes that like somehow that is an effectual thing that it matters. Like the candidates, what if all the candidates are shit? It'd be like mandatory eating. Like, oh, well, we all have to eat. So, well, here's the stuff laid out before you. You have to eat something. Better eat something. What if I don't want any of that stuff? What if it's all gross? Which is kind of how I feel about politics. It's all fucking gross.
When I was in college in the early 2000s, so in 2000 we had the census, and I was in my dorm room, and our RA, which is what they call the dorm manager guy or whatever the heck he was, came over and he made sure that I had to fill out my census form. I'm like, I'm not doing this. And he's like, well, it's required. I'm like, I've never done this before. And, actually, I'm technically not a resident of Ellensburg. I'm from Tacoma, so that doesn't really count. And they're like, sorry, but you have to like fill this out for where you're at right now at this right second, and all this stuff and all this information and whatever. I'm like, that's how I feel about mandatory voting. It's like, I get it. They want people to participate, but George Carlin, I think, made a quote at one point in time. He said, Imagine you take all the people in the country, and half of them are stupid, and the other half are stupider than the other half, or so it's something like that. You have to look it up on YouTube or whatever. But it's like, you can't just mandatorily force people to do stuff because most people are dumb.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, exactly. And it's kind of like it assumes that all you have to do is vote to fix things. No.
And that's why we need legal abortion, because most people are dumb. Sorry.
Yeah, well, exactly.
But, things happen, mistakes happen. People do stuff, and it's like, oops, I mean, look at a famous politician's daughter goes out and they're white and she has a baby with a black guy and he's freaking out, and what's going to happen? He's going to pay thousands of bucks to go ahead and have that baby pulled out because he doesn't want to have a half black kid coming out, and that's a whole different episode to deal with here. But
yeah,
I mean, that's one thing, but people are people. People are going to do things. Things are going to happen. People should be allowed to do people stuff, whether it's getting an abortion or
we have a comment. Christine says she was glad she had options, safe ones at that. And that's the thing here.
Yeah.
Nobody has stopped abortions from happening, just the safe ones.
Exactly. And this is where if you want to if you want a wedge to use to gain the backing of gun people, there's a very similar argument that if guns are illegal, only criminals are going to have guns. Like it's very similar that like, yeah, it's kind of like the prohibition doesn't work. Like during the prohibition era, there was like more alcohol flowed more freely than at any other time. Like you can't just legislate a thing away.
Well, in this case, though, I'm going to counter argue with you on this in terms of Japanese gun legislation and how that works.
Well, hold on. We have a whole conversation about that.
Yeah.
But the point is that basically the gist of what I was getting at is if you ban something, it's not going away. Like drugs are illegal, murder's illegal.
Give me one second.
People use drugs. People use drugs. People murder. It just happens. Like it's going to happen. And with abortions, well, it's been happening for a lot longer than abortion clinics have existed. It's been going on for thousands of years, maybe longer. And do you want somebody to have a safe option, or do you want them to just take some kind of person in a back alley or off a Craigslist or Open Bazaar or something like that for your services? I would rather have there be like doctors, like nurses,
so
behind that.
To the religious,
even if you don't agree with it, like on principle, it makes sense. Like at least it should be safe.
Well, here's the thing: to the religious people, and that's basically 100% of who is against abortion. You're thinking that choosing to end the life of the fetus is murder, and it should be stopped at all costs. Now, abortion is not just a doctor going in and doing this. Abortion is quite simply aborting the pregnancy,
which happens naturally too.
Yes, that's where I'm going with this. Abortion happens naturally all the time, like before you even know you're pregnant in some cases. Like it just more often than not, a pregnancy is not viable, and before a month time when you might like notice you missed your period or whatever, it could be over and gone, and you barely, if anything, notice it at all. Now you say, well, that's God working in mysterious ways if he naturally aborts something that was God's will. Well, how do you know he's not using the abortion clinic as his tool? Now, I only say that because, being an atheist and all, because it's basically mirroring other arguments that people have for the whole God works in mysterious ways thing, for the whole like justifying why one thing is bad, but it's okay when God does it.
Well, hey, as Nixon said, if the president does it, it's not illegal, right?
Mm.
Yeah.
So,
have you heard
man,
of
the things I can do now? Hell yeah!
Have you heard of a chemical pregnancy where the egg and the sperm attach, and they attach to the side of the uterus, but they don't hold, and then it comes out after like a couple of days, and then there it goes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
That happened to us once. They call it a miscarriage.
It's a complex thing. Like things aren't like black and white, I guess. And honestly, I think this issue is complex and gray. Like it's full of shades of gray. It shouldn't be devolved into or put in these boxes of like right and wrong. Like there's a lot of in-betweens here going on. And even then, as an anarchist, I feel like consistency, even if I don't agree with certain things, if they principally apply to things that are important to me, well, I have to essentially agree with those things or let them go. Or, I don't know. I don't think it's a thing the state has any business involving itself in. It doesn't have any business in our homes, our personal affairs, our bedrooms, and our bodies.
I want to know how many people who are against abortions are for the death penalty, because I have a feeling that they're going to be okay with that. And it's all going to be based off of, oh, well, a fetus is innocent and they have so much potential and all this. And how do you know that's not going to be a terrible person? But if they had aborted that one and had a child later when they were ready, and that would have been like a saint, you don't know. You can't argue what ifs. Well, it's not valid.
Yeah. And that's an interesting angle too. Like the death penalty, arguing the potential of somebody and saying like, well, you can't extinguish that life because they have potential to be something. But then on the other hand, arguing, well, we should extinguish that person because ignoring the potential they possibly could have for doing good, even if they've done something wrong and made a mistake.
I get if there's like a obvious pattern going on.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm not 100% against the death penalty. I think it should be pretty sparing.
Yeah, I agree. I'm pretty don't like it, but maybe.
A guy like Ted Bundy who basically admitted, like, if you don't kill me, I'm just gonna keep escaping. I've done it twice.
Yeah, that's a really fun topic for me to be on because I'm left leaning, but like I'm like super pro death penalty. Like it's like because my thought behind it is, why have them sit in prison for 50 or 60 years when you can just like off them and save some tax money?
Yeah.
Well, because I guess I'll just interject here really quick on that. The prison system should be rehabilitative. The point is, we should be striving to take somebody who is lost in life and make them a contributing member of society.
Rehabilitate them. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. And like, okay, maybe there are a select few who you can't.
Yeah. I mean, even in Star Trek, the doctors can't heal everyone.
Yeah.
Right.
But even if you can't, I don't think we should just give up hope at any point.
But if you go out and shoot up a school, why sit in prison for 50 or 60 years when?
Well, because the sweet release of death, you don't have to suffer anymore. Like, that's well, there you go, easy out.
Well, so what? Like, I don't care if they suffer. If they can't do any more harm, that's the point. The point shouldn't be making them suffer the most.
No, but some people do that. I'm devil's advocate kind of shit here. I agree, Casey, that not doing any further harm is the key. But we should also be like, because people don't do stuff like that for no reason at all. There's a reason. There may be a way to fix it, and perhaps at this point we don't quite know how to fix it. But I don't think that's a reason.
The best fix is a prevention. Maintenance. Good health care.
Yeah,
good mental health.
Mental health
care.
Well, and I know we're kind of deviating into all this stuff, but like
we're all over the place. It's fun.
Yes, well, that's kind of what
it all ties together in ways, though.
It does, and that's what happens on kitchen sink microscopy. But mental health is a really huge thing, and I think it bothers me that people don't take it seriously, like anywhere. They're kind of like, you're just just eccentric or something like that, and then that's the person that shoots up a school. Or drives a truck through 70 people.
Or even those of us who have disorders that need to be addressed. Like I've got an anxiety thing, and I hate going to the doctor because all they wanted to do is send me to the counselor, and I hate to talk to a counselor and dealing with that stuff and getting asked questions like, well, tell me about your father. I'm like, no, sorry.
Oh God, you're bringing me flashbacks to Blade Runner. My mother. Let me tell you about my mother. Jesus. But that's the thing, is like, it's a societal thing. Like we should be respectful of people, because here's the thing. This idea that mental health is some kind of aberration, or disorders are an aberration. No, everybody has some kind of something. We all suffer from something. Like, that's actually a lot more normal than it is weird. So we should be respectful of people, because I think it is kind of a shame thing. Like, people feel ashamed to get help, or society
there's a lot
has
of barriers.
No construct.
There's a lot of barriers to access to mental health. Like, money is a huge part.
Yeah.
What's that?
Insurance doesn't always cover as much of it as like a regular visit. It's like a specialist kind of a field.
Yeah, you get 10 visits a year or something.
And that's because we don't take it seriously.
Yeah.
But the thing is, like, our mind is all we have. Like, shouldn't mental health be the most critical health that we have, that we focus on?
Yeah. Most of what you define yourself as has to do with your mental awareness.
Yeah.
Like your brain, your mind. And that's like one of the things we care for the least when it comes to mental health,
Well, and a good example of how that works is Stephen Hawking. The guy didn't have much physical faculties.
Basically
Sitting in a
didn't have
wheelchair.
a body.
Yeah. Talking through a computer and stuff, but he was one of the greatest physicists who ever lived. Like the greatest minds of our time. Yeah. So the mind is the thing. And minds are very complex and fragile. And I think we should take care of that. Like our bodies are actually a lot more resilient than our minds. You think about it, like you get cut or damaged on your body, you bleed for a minute, but then you're going to heal. You can like walk it off essentially. But God. Somebody insults you when you were in middle school, you're going to remember that shit for the rest of your life.
Oh, don't get me started on that, boy.
Oh, I just had a thought, like defining ourselves based on our awareness of ourselves. That's not something that happens until well after you've been delivered and even started talking. Like you don't really retain memories of who you are. You can't really become self-aware until you're a few years old. Honestly.
Yeah.
Like if you want to say that a fetus is like this potential life, and we don't even yet know how consciousness or individuality really comes about, or if individuality even exists, or if it's just something that we've made up. You don't know if that is just living inside somebody waiting for the next vessel to attach itself to. You don't know that that potential life was actually extinguished in one abortion, or if it would just attach to the next viable embryo.
Ooh, I would actually be really curious to talk to some people who are pro-life, like, preserve life at all costs because of the potential. Yeah. I'd be curious to ask them how they feel about the new revelation of the Google AI,
right?
That seemingly became sentient. Like, should we preserve that too? And if we shouldn't, why do we preserve the human one and not this one?
How about the eggs in my fridge? Should I keep those in the freezer?
Yeah.
How do I know they haven't been fertilized?
That's a good question. Ooh, man.
Yeah, it's pretty rare, but every now and then there will be.
There's a little white thing attached to the side of the yolk, and there you crack it open, and there it goes. And it's like, oh, what's that white thing? Oh, it's a little tiny chicken.
It's the brain and spinal column of a chicken.
Yeah. 1 second, keep going.
Yeah. It's yeah.
But that's the thing, is like I wonder, like, because you have to be consistent logically. If the argument is a preservation of a potential life, shouldn't those very same people be in favor of preserving this AI life form? Like, isn't that the ultimate?
I would think so. I hold more excitement and I don't know, like reverence for the AI than for a blastocyst,
Well, because the thing is, like, it's really easy to have sex. It's not easy.
I learned that
program an AI. It's not easy to program an AI, though. So shouldn't this very difficult construct be the thing that we strive to preserve?
Look at Mr. Data on Star Trek. I mean, is he sentient?
I wouldn't even call it artificial anymore.
Second season.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even call it artificial intelligence anymore. If it becomes self-aware, that should just be considered intelligent.
Well, it would be artificial because it was like not naturally constructed, but I don't know that really is a distinction that matters.
I don't think it does.
What matters is sentience.
Yeah.
Like, do you recognize yourself? That's it. That's
a worm is self-aware. You pick up a worm out of the ground, you touch it, it moves, it wails around, it goes back into the dirt, it knows where it needs to go. It doesn't talk, it doesn't sing, it doesn't create, literature, but it, it knows what it has to do to get things done.
Yeah.
So does a computer.
Yeah.
Oh, well, man,
just gestating differently doesn't necessarily make us worthy of being treated differently. Sharks are some kind of combination between how birds do it and how humans do it. Ovoviviparous, I think is the word. They have an egg, and then eventually it becomes like a fetus, and then is like sort of born, but still attaches and still develops while on the exterior of the shark.
And sometimes they eat each other.
Yeah. So there's all kinds of different ways to come about into a certain realm of intelligence. I don't think you need to differentiate between them all,
No, but I think humans tend to be very human centric. So,
and that's a natural thing to do, but we can work past it. I would consider Google Maps artificial intelligence. It doesn't say, oh, I don't want to give you directions, man. It's 3 a.m. I'm trying to sleep.
Imagine that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have one of those Alexa devices or a Google Home?
I do. Yeah.
Plugged in, so we have a Google thing, so we can ask it all kinds of questions and stuff, and it'll answer and whatever, and do things. Like one time I said, "Hey Google, open the pod bay doors." If you remember the reference for that, and it gave me a really funny answer.
Open the pod bay doors, Hal.
Yeah, so but
did it start singing Daisy? Daisy,
well,
Daisy.
It won't do that, but it will direct me to YouTube and play stuff on YouTube and that kind of stuff. So is that sentient, or is that just
that's an Easter egg that somebody programmed in?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's programmatical, but so are we.
Okay, yeah.
We humans have programs too. You can't deny that there's software coding that dictates how we behave. I mean, yeah, it's really complex, but
I downloaded the meme app, so now I understand how to speak in memes.
Well, and
I reply in GIFs.
That'd be GIFs. Oh,
GIFs or GIFs? That's another episode.
Yeah. But I mean, oh man, wow, we've gone in so many different directions, and
it's kind of like a time warp.
Oh, do we have to do a dance now? Do I have to wear a thong or something? And
well, if Casey had more hair, he could play Tim Curry. But I've actually got a split here in a second. I've got a little one,
okay,
and all that, but. If you guys want to wrap, that's fine. If you guys want to keep going. But I've got to get her to bed. So here she is.
Okay. Hi.
Night.
Yeah,
last
it's getting
day of
late.
kindergarten today.
Oh wow.
She's a first grader now.
Oh wow.
All right, nice.
So
congratulations.
Getting
growing up.
Oh yeah.
Anyways, I'm gonna jet. You guys have a good night. Thanks for
inviting me. All right, you too. Thanks for joining us.
I was able to contribute something to this conversation.
Yes, absolutely. Always appreciate it. You're always welcome.
Okay, and we'll see you next week.
Stay cool.
Take it easy.
Yep.
Well, I don't know how many people we've got hanging on. Do you have eyes on that? Or
let me look really quick. Whoa. We have 4 people currently watching.
Ah, all right. Well,
Yeah. Oh, I gotta like close that because I'm seeing myself like seconds after I'm moving around. That's
Rima.
trippy. Yeah, it's really trippy. Oh man.
We always have to have a Red Dwarf reference.
Mhm.
I mean, yeah, we got kind of far off of the whole, abortion Roe versus Wade topic, but
I think we covered a lot of relevant things though.
yeah, I don't know what's coming next because like they released like on the heels of all this, they released another opinion piece that they're setting their eyes on birth control and gay marriage now. It's like, well, you're just gonna kick everyone while they're down, like, and take us all the way back to the 18th century.
Yeah. So I guess
Is slavery coming back on the table?
oh fuck. I mean,
I'm serious.
No, you're right. Like, here's the problem with government. And we're seeing it now. Seesaw governance. Everything's consistent and fine. 1 minute you settle in, like, oh, okay, everything's all right, and then boom, bam, they change the game on you, and now what was once legal is now illegal. Now you're a felon. Like, you're going to prison. Like, why? How? Who wants that? What? I mean, anybody out there, I would ask, why do you want this? Like, it's nonsense. Like, we should be ever evolving towards a better, more humanitarian, more connected state, and not battling each other over like who's in charge and stuff. Like, that's the wrong way. And this is the danger of politics, is that we end up, it becomes an us versus them thing. And it's like, well, now I'm in charge. Okay, well, I've got the ball. I'm going to kick the ball down this way. And then somebody else gets the ball and they're like, well, I got the ball. I'm going to kick the ball that way towards that goal. Like, that's not the way to make life better for people. Has anybody figured this out in the last 1,000 years? Seriously,
people just need to learn empathy. Like, to take this in a philosophical direction, if I were to posit like a what do you call this, like a mental mind exercise, thought exercise or whatever. Imagine we discovered that cancerous tumors were sentient living beings. Would you still blast them with chemotherapy? Would you still excise them from your body and just throw them in the bucket? Or would you protect all life at all costs?
Well, aren't cancer cells living?
Well, yeah, technically. I mean, but they're not sentient as far as we know.
As far as we know, that's the thing.
But that's the thing. It's like, well, maybe they're not sentient as tumors, but maybe we find out that like after the body dies, they become that person. I don't know. Like, and they whatever it is, like if there's a potential for sentience, are you going to say, well, we can't stop cancer anymore? Like,
and how do we define sentience too? Because like I would imagine rats are sentient, cockroaches are sentient, like they're self-aware, and yet most people are completely happy to extinguish them. And so if we're okay with that, well, why is this a problem? Like, it does raise a lot of questions, and it's okay to be like, well, I don't know.
Making me
maybe
feel
this
like
is
a
the
dick
problem.
for spraying roaches with Raid when I lived in Memphis.
Yeah. What? But maybe that's a problem. It's like we're so averse to saying, well, I don't know. Or having conversations about things, the difficult conversations. Star Trek did it really well, especially back in the day, dealing with these kinds of difficult things.
Yeah. They never really did touch on abortion though, did they?
Not to my knowledge, no.
I mean, not directly.
No, but here's the thing, that the concepts revolving around abortion are kind of universal. It isn't like specific to abortion. It's specific to the human condition. So, and Star Trek did touch on a lot of that stuff. And I think that's the danger that arises from the polarization that occurs around this particular topic. Is people tend to hyper focus on that particular topic and not the greater concepts, I guess. But then again, we've never been educated in those ways. We've
I mean, what if empathy was a first grade class? Just like, I mean, you can't teach empathy, but you can. I mean, you have philosophy classes, right? It would be a philosophy class for first graders. Something to build on your compassion, to help guide you to be a better person, to create peace in the world.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. Like, I don't think you could teach empathy, but you can demonstrate it. You can't necessarily have a class about it. Philosophy, sure.
No,
there are certain concepts, but
there's no one way to look at empathy either.
Exactly. However, if you just sat there and watched YouTube videos of humans being bros for like an hour, you would learn empathy. You would absolutely learn it. Like people struggling, jumping down muddy ass holes to rescue a dog. Like you would learn it in short order. And oh man.
I mean, everybody to some degree has a conflicting sense of empathy, where I might think I'm understanding someone emotionally and you might think I'm being a dick, but like, as long as we have some kind of semblance of trying to put ourselves in somebody else's shoes before we start saying that what they're doing is wrong and they shouldn't be doing it, unless it impacts you directly, try to exercise that empathy. And,
well, I would, yeah, you're right. I would say converse first, judge later.
Yeah.
Like
that's where the crusty old guys argument has some clout. Like, these people shouldn't be legislating on things that they have absolutely no empathy for. They've demonstrated they don't have empathy for this.
No, not only do they not have empathy, they have no experience dealing with these things, yet they are tasked with authoritatively dictating these things, which is bullshit. Like, why?
And I say
who
empathy,
cares what any of them have to think?
I say empathy over experience, because I really think you don't need experience to understand a thing. Mm-hmm. That's what empathy is for. Empathy is relating. Yeah, empathy is like, oh, that reminds me, I can see based on what I'm, gathering from this, that it's kind of like something I went through and I can relate that.
Exactly. Like if you've never watched your child drowned in a car that you were trying to stop from falling off a cliff, you could certainly put yourself in those shoes and imagine what it's like to lose a child that way. Like, you don't literally have to go through that to understand that. I obviously it may be different, but yeah, you could totally understand that.
Yeah, it'll be different, but like, and that's a lot. A lot of people have this idea that, like, if you didn't go through exactly what I'm going through, you can't understand. And it's like, well, hang on, like, nobody understands anything anyone else feels ever, even if you went through a carbon copy of sensory inputs, let's say. You're going to interpret them differently because you're a different person. So nobody ever knows exactly what somebody else is feeling.
No, they can't possibly, like,
so it doesn't matter. Like,
yeah,
all that matters is you can see they care, and if they care, feel grateful.
Yeah. I was going to say the same thing. Like, how can anybody expect you to sympathize with what you're going through if you're poo-pooing them for not having gone through it to begin with?
Yeah, it's like, if you've ever, I've been that guy, right? And I grew from it. And I realized it's like, oh, if I want people to, like, feel some sympathy for me and, sit and listen to what's bothering me, I gotta stop shooting down, like, their attempts at relating to me, and trying to compete with who's hurting more, or whatever.
Which is, I think, destructive.
Yeah, like, then they just don't want to offer sympathy next time,
Yeah. Oh man. Wow, this has gone deep.
Yeah, as always.
Oh, every time. Oh my God. Drunk and deep.
Yeah. Yeah. It would be great to get a woman's perspective on this, in video.
I think Christine in the comments had mentioned that. I think we missed that though, and we might be
well, I asked her to send an invite, but I didn't see it come through. So
we might be a little bit.
This was like short order notice. Like, this just happened today. I didn't see it coming in, like, the short term. And it kind of blindsided me. And I was like, just a few hours ago, I was like, you know what, we should probably just go live and let people vent if they need to. And I know we didn't get, like, each and every comment, but I did try to pull it back to some of the poignant abortion related things. So if you're seeing a recording of this, feel free to leave comments anyway.
And maybe, not maybe. This is something we'll revisit again and again and again. I kind of see this just like self-defense as a humanitarian thing.
And it's going to be more and more relevant as we start to feel the ramifications of this judgment.
Yeah. I guess my advice to the others, my people out there, if you feel like voting, just throw away your ballot. Just throw it away.
Yeah.
Like, don't participate.
I didn't start voting until like 10 years ago, and I think I gave up about a year ago entirely.
Yeah, my dad keeps bringing because my ballots keep showing up at his address, and he brings them by, and then as soon as he brings them by, I'm like, okay, see you later, and then throw it in the bin. Like, okay.
Yeah.
Like I would rather, like, I don't believe that a bunch of crusty old dudes are gonna fix things. I believe that we will fix things. Like you and I, the people that you know, your inner circle, like we have the power to change things, and we will ultimately.
Well, this kind of discussion,
Yeah.
this open forum, this, like going into the live chat and saying, hey, if you want to jump on, send us your email.
Mhm.
Like anyone that wants to come and talk and discuss these things, please do. We're trying to, within a few days here, record an episode on gun control, which we haven't really touched directly since our first episode. We've touched on it or skirted it here, but like the actual idea of gun control, we haven't done in a while. And Randy, who was just on here several minutes ago, is trying to get some of his friends that are more conservative leaning and pro-gun to come on the show, and they'll watch a few of our episodes and say that we're too left leaning. And it's like, well, if anything, if you think that's true, I don't know how, but if you think that's true, you should want to come on and state your case. And it's like,
yeah, change hearts and minds.
When you walk away from situations like that without even attempting to engage in conversation, it makes your argument look weak.
And
that's
also
maybe it is,
Well, and that's also akin to just voting and assuming like everything's going to be all right. Like, no, it's not going to be all right. Like, do you really think these crusty old dudes and dudettes are, going to make things better? Like,
yeah.
Well, I mean, I guess you know more than I do. I like their track record is kind of shite.
Yeah.
Man. But yeah, you're right. Like having conversations is really important. Especially engaging with people that you may not necessarily agree with. The thing is, if you take away anything from kitchen sink microscopy, it should be that you can find common ground with anybody. And well, that's how you solve problems. Like,
yeah, it might not be enough common ground to be friends, but you might be able to find some kind of path through a disagreement.
Yeah, exactly. Or have a conversation about something. Have a Heineken, have a conversation. That is, after all, the genesis of this channel.
Pretty much. That and Sherry's.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and I do find it amusing that people would say that about this channel. Like, we are kind of not anything leaning.
No.
I mean, obviously they haven't watched enough episodes with me talking about things.
Well, I think with people like you and I that are not really leaning in a particular direction, people who have a disdain for one side or the other will try to find that. They'll like cherry pick anything that would support that. The confirmation bias.
Oh, you support this thing, so I'm going to slip you into that box, and now you're left leaning. And it's like, really, me? I'm left leaning? Like, I'm like nothing leaning. Like, come on, man. Jesus.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah, I've it's my favorite thing to see in an argument with a stranger online. Like I've heard it go both ways. Like, oh, you're obviously a Republican. You're obviously a lefty communist libtard Democrat. Like,
What is really amusing is when you get both sides in the same argument. Like people think you're one or the other, and I love confabulating people. Yeah. But the thing is, like, it shouldn't just be a matter of politics. It's a matter of humanity. It's a matter of, like, well, these are human things that humans deal with. They're human problems. Like, we should be attempting to solve them. Like, climate change and the environment, it is not a political thing. It's an earth thing. And well, last time I checked, we're all kind of hanging out on Earth. So shouldn't we be like, come on, Teddy Roosevelt took care of that shit back in like the early 1900s. There's
a great Ace Frehley song, and it goes, I tried to tell you I came from outer space. Like,
oh yeah,
that's what I think of us as, like, hey, earthlings,
yeah,
I'm your tits, like,
yeah, exactly. Like, and I mean, we disagree in different areas, but that's okay. Like, we still get along, and we're still willing to talk about those disagreements. And in fact, that's what generates most of the episodes that we do.
Yeah.
Like, it's good stuff.
Damn good stuff. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We still have yet to get mad at each other.
No, like, God, I haven't been like pissed at you since like 2004. And I mean, that was a long time ago.
Good times. Well, I have to take a wicked piss, so I suppose we might as well wrap things up.
Yeah, probably. Let's look at the comments just to make sure there's nothing that we have missed.
With a little more notice, happy to go on video. Yeah. We this was very last minute, so thank you to everyone that joined us for the live stream.
Yeah, like Casey and I sat on the phone, like, sorting this shit out with like minutes to spare. Oh man, I just love what we do. If there were more people, like, why can't what we do be politics? Like,
right.
I mean, okay, wait, hold on a second. I'm not saying what we do should be like politics, but like, why can't the political system operate this way?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you just live stream and have conversations, and
it's a town hall.
Yeah, exactly. Like, try to fix things, right? There are problems. We all know there are problems. We should be attempting to solve them. Like, there's a lot of stuff that people know are problems.
Wasn't there a show here in the Seattle area called Town Hall back in the day?
I think so. Yeah.
Like Ken Schramm or something.
Oh man, that's wow, that's going back a few years. Holy shit. Woo.
I wonder if that was kind of like a progenitor for this show. I don't know. I was too young. I was too young to ever be interested in it, but like, I remember it.
And I barely remembered it, but now, yeah, you jogged my memory. That was the thing. Oh man.
Can't believe I remember that dude's name.
How the hell? Well, anyway.
Well, someday someone will remember our names
Mm-hmm.
30 years later.
I hope so. Yeah. And to those who remember us, I salute you. Peace out. Oh, maybe that's good.
Is it how do you turn this off?
Yeah. So how'd you turn this off then?